Let's present some cases. I'm going to do 4 cases that I think turned out really good and 1 failure, just so you can get a good feel for what happens. Here's case 1. Pre-op x-ray was taken June of 2019. K and L have pretty big interproximal cavities. There's a date. Immediately post-op, the x-ray looks fine. As you can see, the fill is not completely to the full length of the apex. Here, the distal root of L might have a little bit of lucency. And there's a date. Let's see what happens 4 years later. These patients are not mine, they just came back for another referral. 4 years later, these 2 teeth are still there. They're clinically in perfect shape. And they're about to exfoliate. And there's a date. Case 2. Pre-op was taken April 2019. There is a crown on L. As you can see, the gap, there's a pretty decent gap between the crown and the tooth. And pretty large cavity remaining from the previous work. And it was a stainless steel crown. Mom wanted it replaced anyway. So let's zoom in on the date, April of 2019. 18 months later, there's 2 zirconia crowns on K and L, and September 2020. As you can see, it is not completely filled to the apex. 4+ years later, those teeth are about to exfoliate. No clinical or radiographic issues to speak of. I'm very happy with the way they turned out. August of 2023. Let's talk about case 3. December 2019 was when I first saw this kid. For some reason, all the teeth that are in trouble, tooth K. Pre-op x-ray taken 2019, huge occlusal cavity. Immediate post-op, the fill is good. Notice the other teeth did not get a pulp. Let's go back and see what they looked like. So they did not, the cavity this size, in my opinion, doesn't need the pulp touched. You can also see the distal root got a little damage from the burr, but as you can see, it won't affect the tooth at all. December 2019. 1 year later, you can see the metapex is not completely filled. It started resorbing, and the bone looks pretty good. There's the date, December 2020. 2 years later, almost all of the metapex is gone. It's been resorbed, and the bone looks pretty healthy. 3.5 years later, next tooth is erupting, and everything still looks good. Clinically, it looks perfect too. Case 4, pre-op was taken in 2019. For once, it's not tooth K with a huge cavity. The date. Let's see some x-rays of that tooth. My tooth looks pretty destroyed. Bite wing of that tooth that same day. Immediate post-op x-ray. It cleaned up pretty nicely. It's not perfectly filled, but it's okay. It still works. 1 year after treatment, you can see the metapex is starting to shrink and get thinner in the canals. January of 2020. 1 year later, and next time they came back, 2.5 years later, tooth is still in good shape, and all the metapex is gone. July of 2020. Now let's talk about a failure. I want to show a failure just so you can see, even when it fails very nicely. There's tooth K again, huge cavity on the occlusal. This is September 2019. Immediately post-op, you can tell it was not filled all the way. I don't think that's why this failed. I think it didn't fail because I don't see a little gap there where the antibiotics was placed. Three years later, they came back, and you can see a little bit of furcation issue. Metapex is resorbing in the canals. Clinically, it was in perfect shape, so I left it. And there's a date, January of 22. The next x-ray I have of this kid is 4 years later. The area of lucency is bigger, but the tooth is firm. Clinically, it looks perfect. So I decided to leave it again. Now we're going to see some cases done live. Recording is a little bit difficult. I wish I could do second molar recordings, but it's hard to see inside the chamber of a second molar, so I'm showing you 2 first molars. Doing one with instrumentation and one without, so you can see both. I have the timer going so you can see how long it takes. Pop the top off. I decided not to use the Explorer to locate the canals. I just went to injecting first because I had a pretty good feeling where to inject. Spraying the excess metapex out. See a little bit of pulp tissue, so I removed it with a small spoon. And inject a little bit more metapex. That's it. Doing antibiotics in this one. I also use the spoon to spread the antibiotics in the bottom of the chamber. And there's the ZOE. 55 seconds. Here's another one. Pop the chamber top off. Go in to instrument the canals. Just a few times in and out. There's no need to measure. Just cleaning the top 1/3 of the canal. Here's the irrigation with Paradex. And there's the metapex going into the canals. And you can see the yellow pulp stump and a clean chamber. There's antibiotics again. Spread it around with a spoon. And the ZOE. Done. Pack it in with a Q-tip. 54 seconds. Thank you for watching.